and worship me. That's pretty good advice. Purport advice, divine grace, as he Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When a devotee becomes materially very opulent, one should not think that he is enjoying the results of his fruitive activities. A devotee in this material world uses all material opulences for the service of the Lord because he is planning how to serve the Lord with these opulences, as advised by the Lord himself. Whatever material opulence is within his possession, he engages to expand the glories and service of the Lord. A devotee never performs any fruitive or ritualistic ceremony to enjoy the results of such karma. Rather, a devotee knows that karma kanda is meant for the less intelligent man. Narottam Dasa Thakur says in his Prema Bhakti Chandrika, karma kanda, jnana kanda, kevala visira bandha. Both karma kanda and jnana kanda, fruitive activities and speculation about the Supreme Lord are like pots of poison. One who is attracted to karma kanda and jnana kanda spoils his existence as a human being. Therefore, a devotee is never interested in karma kanda or jnana kanda, but is simply interested in favorable service to the Lord, anukulyena Krishnana sulanam, or cultivation of spiritual knowledge in devotional service. Haribol. Text 13. My dear Prahlada, while you are in this material world, you will exhaust all the reactions of pious activity by bringing happiness, and by acting piously, you will neutralize the impious activity. Because of the powerful time factor, you will give up your body, but the glories of your activities will be sung to inimitable to the entire universe, in the upper planetary systems, and being fully freed from all bondage, you will return home back to Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur says, Evam Praladas Ya Yamsena Sadhana Siddhatvam Nitya Siddhatvam Cha Narada Divaj Gena. There are two classes of devotees, the Sadhana Siddha and the Nitya Siddha. Prahlada Maharaj is a mixed Siddha. That is, he is perfect partly because of executing devotional service and partly because of eternal perfection. Thus, he is compared to such devotees as Narada. Former, Narada Muni was the son of a maidservant, and therefore in his next birth he attained perfection. Sadhana Siddhi, because of having executed devotional service, yet he is also a Nitya Siddha, because he never forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Kushala kusalena. The word kusalena is very important. One should live in the material world very expert. The material world is known as the world of duality because one sometimes has to act impiously and sometimes has to act piously. Although one does not want to act impiously, the world is so fashioned that there is always danger. Padam padam yat vipadam. Thus, even when performing devotional service, a devotee has to create many enemies. Prahlada Maharaja and Prahlada Maharaj himself had experience of this, for even his father became his enemy. A devotee should expertly manage to think always of the Supreme Lord so that the reactions of suffering cannot touch him. This is the expert management of Papa Punya, pious and impious activities. An exalted devotee like Prahlad Maharaj is Jivan Mukta. He is liberated even in this very life in the material body. Text 14. Second. One who always remembers your activities and mine activities also, and who chants the prayers you have offered, becomes free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here it is stated that anyone who chants and hears about the activities of Prahlada Maharaj and in relationship with Prahlada's activities, the activities of the Shingadeva, gradually becomes free from all the bondage of fruitive activities, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.15, 2.56. Yam hina vyatyanti te purusham purusharasabha samaduka sukham diram so murtabhaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Dukesh Dukesh Anudvigna Mana Sukeshu Vigata Spriha Vitaragabhaya Kroda Stita Dir Munirpuchate. One who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. A devotee should not be aggrieved in an awkward position, nor should he feel extraordinarily happy in material opulence. This is the way of expert management of material life, because a devotee knows how to manage expertly. He is called Jivan Mukta. As Rupa Goswami explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Iha Yasher Harer Dasye Kamana Manasajira Nikhilvas Bhakti Api Avasta Su Jivan Mukta Sa Uchate. Let's see. This is the way of expert management of material life because a devotee knows how to manage expertly. He is called Jivan Mukta, as Rupa Goswami explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Iha Yasir Harir Dasye Kamanamanasajira Nikila Swapyavastasu Jivan Mukta Sauchate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, even within this material world, although he may be engaged in many so called material activities. Because of one second, constantly engaging in devotional service in any condition of life, a devotee is free from all material bondage. Bhakti punati mam nista swapakan api sambhavat. Even one born in a family of meat eaters is purified if he engages in devotional service. Bhagavatam 11.14.21. Shiva, Jiva Goswami cites this verse in logically supporting that anyone who chants about the pure life and activities of Prahlad Maharaj is freed from the reactions of material activities. I like that even one born in a family of meat eaters is purified. If he engages in devotional service, well, that's me. I was born in a family of meat eaters. But fortunately, by meeting Prabhupada and devotees, I have given up those bad habits. Text 15 to 17. Prahlada Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, because you are so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father, at the time of his death, had already been purified by your glance upon him. But because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus, he directly blasphemed your lordship, the supreme master of all living beings, and committed heavily sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. Now, see how merciful Prahlad Maharaj is. Purport Prasila Prabhupada. Although Hiranyakashipu was purified as soon as he came in contact with the Lord's lap, and the Lord saw him, Prahlad Maharaj still wanted to hear from the Lord's own mouth that his father had been purified by the Lord's causeless mercy. Prahlada Maharaj offered this prayer to the Lord for the sake of his father. As a Vaishnava son, despite all the inconveniences imposed upon him by his father, he could not forget his father's affection. Text 18. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Prahlada, O most pure and O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified, along with 21 forefathers in your family. Because you were born in this family, the entire dynasty has been purified. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The word Tri Saptabhi means 7 multiplied by 3. In one's family, one can count back 4 or 5 generations to one's great grandfather or even one's great grandfather's father. But since the Lord mentions 21 forefathers, this indicates that the benediction expanded to other families also. Before the present family in which one has taken birth, one must have been born in other families. Thus, when a Vaishnava takes birth in a family, by the grace of the Lord, he purifies not only that family, but also the families of his previous births. Text 19. Whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Wherever exalted devotees stay, not only they and their dynasties, but the entire country is purified. Text 20. My dear Prahlada, king of the Daityas, because of being attached to devotional service to me, my devotee does not distinguish between lower and higher living entities. In all respects, he is never jealous of anyone. Text number 21. Bhavanti Purusha Loke Magdas Tvam Anu Rata Bhavan Me Kalu Bhaktanam Sarvesam Pratirupa Drik. Those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps.
Wow.
What?
Yes, the Lord Himself is saying that Prahlad is
What?
the Lord Himself is saying that Prahlad is the purest devotee.
Yes. Yeah. My pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya quotes a verse from the Skanda Purana. Rite tu tatvikan devan naradam dims tat haiva cha prarada no parada uttama konu Vishnu bhakto jagat traye. There are many, many devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have been enumerated in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.20 as follows. Swayambhu Narada Sambhu Ko Mara Kapilo Manu Palado Janako Bhismo Balir Vyas Sakir Vayam. Of the 12 authorized devotees, Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, Kapila, Manu, and so on, Prahlada Maharaj is understood to be the best example. Nice. Text 22. My dear child, your father has been purified not by the touch of my body at the time. Let's start over again. My dear child, your father has already been purified just by the touch of my body at the time of his death. Nonetheless, the duty of a son is to perform the Shraddha ritualistic ceremony after his father's death, so that his father may be promoted to a planetary system where he may become a good citizen and devotee. Purports. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that although Hiranyakashipu was already purified, he had to take birth on a higher planetary system to become a devotee again. Prahlada Maharaj was advised to perform the ritualistic ceremony as a matter of etiquette for the Supreme Lord of Godhead, under no circumstances wants to stop the regulative principles. Madhava Muni also instructs Madhukai Tabo Bhakti Abhava Duro Bhagavato Mrito Tama Eva Kramad Apto Bhaktya Ched Ko Yo Bhaktya Ched Yo Harim Yayo. When the demons Madhu and Kaitapa were killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their kinsmen also observed the ritualistic ceremonies so that these demons could return home back to Godhead. Text 23. After performing the ritualistic ceremonies, take charge of your father's kingdom. Sit upon the throne and do not be disturbed by materialistic activities. Please keep your mind fixed upon me without transgressing the injunctions of the Vedas. As a matter of formality, you may perform your particular duties. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When one becomes a devotee, he no longer has any duty to the Vedic regulative principles. One has many duties to perform. But if one becomes fully devoted to the Lord, he no longer has any such obligations. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:5-41. Devarsi putatma nrinam pitrinam na kinkaro nayam rini chad rajan. Sarvatmana ya saranam saranyam gato mukundam pariritya kartam. One who has fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord is no longer a debtor to his forefathers and great sages, and his forefathers, the great sages, human society, the common man, or any living entity. The Supreme Personality of Godhead nonetheless advised Prahlada Maharaj to follow the regulative principles, for since he was going to be the king, others would follow his example. Thus, Lord Nrsingadeva advised Prahlada Maharaj to engage in his political duties so that people would become the Lord's devotees. Yad yad acharati shrestас tatad evataro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anavartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Bhagavad Gita 3:21. One should not be attached to any materialistic activities, but a devotee may perform such activities as an example to show the common man that one should not deviate from the Vedic injunctions. Text 24. Sri Narada Uvacha Prarado pi tata chakre pityur yat samparayikam yata ha Bhagavan Rajan Abish
Shikto.
Ikkato Dvijatibihi. Sri Narada Muni continued. Thus, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead ordered, Prahlad Maharaj performed the ritualistic ceremonies for his father. O King Yudhisthira, he was then enthroned in the kingdom of Hiranyakashipu as directed by the Brahmanas. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is essential that society be divided into four groups of men: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Here we see that although Prahlada was perfect in every respect, he nonetheless followed the instructions of the Brahmanas, who performed the Vedic rituals. Therefore, in society, there must be a very intelligent class of leaders who are well versed in the Vedic knowledge so that they can guide the entire populace to follow the Vedic principles and thus gradually become most perfect. and become most perfect and eligible to return home back to Godhead. Text 25. Lord Brahma, surrounded by the other demigods, was bright-faced because the Lord was pleased. Thus he offered prayers to the Lord with transcendental words. Text 26. Lord Brahma said, O Supreme Lord of all lords, proprietor of the earth, proprietor of the entire universe, O benedictor of all living entities, O original person, Adi Purusha, because of our good fortune, you have now killed this sinful demon who was giving trouble to the entire universe. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Purvaja is described in Bhagavad Gita 10.18. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. All the demigods, including Lord Brahma, are manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the original person, the cause of all causes, is Govinda, the Adi Purusham. Text 27. This demon Hiranyakashipu received from me the benediction that he would not be killed by any living being within my creation. With this assurance and with strength derived from austerities and mystic power, he became excessively proud and transgressed all the material injunctions. Text 28.
All the Vedic Indian.
All the Vedic injunctions. Yeah, sorry. Text 28. By great fortune, Hiranyakashipu's son, Prahlada Maharaja, has now been released from death. For although he is a child, he is an exalted devotee. Now he is fully under the protection of your lotus feet. Text 29. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are the Supreme Soul. If one meditates upon your transcendental body, you naturally protect him from all sources of fear, even the imminent danger of death. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Everyone is sure to die, for no one is excused from the hands of death, which is but a feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mityu sarva haraschaham. When one becomes a devotee, however, he is not destined to die according to a limited duration of life. Everyone has a limited duration of life, but a devotee's devotee's lifetime can be extended by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, who is able to nullify the results of one's karma. Karmani nidahati kintu chabakti bhajam. This is the statement of Brahma Samhita 5.54. A devotee is not under the laws of karma. Therefore, even a devotee's scheduled death can be avoided by the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. God protects the devotee even from the extreme danger of death.
Wow.
It's a powerful statement. Text 30. The personality of Godhead replied, My dear Lord Brahma, O great Lord, born from the lotus flower, just as it is dangerous to feed milk to a snake, so it is dangerous to give benedictions to demons. who are by nature ferocious and jealous. I warn you not to give such benedictions to any demon again. Text 31. Narada Muni continued, O King Yudhishthira, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is not visible to an ordinary human being, spoke in this second. In this way, instructing Lord Brahma, and then being worshipped by Brahma, the Lord disappeared from that place. Text 32. Prahlada Maharaj then worshipped and offered prayers to all the demigods, such as Brahma, Shiva, and the Prajapatis, who are all parts of the Lord. Text 33. Thereafter, along with Sukracharya and other great saints, Lord Brahma, whose seat is on the lotus flower, made Prahlada the king of all the demons and giants in the universe. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By the grace of Lord Nrsingadeva, Prahlada Maharaj became a greater king than his father, Hiranyakashipu. Prahlada's inauguration was performed by Lord Brahma in the presence of other saintly persons and demigods. Text 34. O King Yudhishthira, after all the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, were properly worshipped by Prahlada Maharaj, they offered Prahlada their utmost benedictions and then returned to their respective abodes. Text 35. Thus, the two associates of Lord Vishnu, who had become Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, the sons of Diti, were both killed. By illusion, they had thought that the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, was their enemy, but not really. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The discourse concerning Lord Nrsingadeva and Prahlada Maharaj began when Maharaj Yudhishthira asked Narada how Sisupala had merged into the body of Krishna. Sisupala and Dantavakra were the same Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Here, Narada Muni is relating how in three different births the associates of Lord Vishnu were killed by Lord Vishnu himself. First, they were the demons Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Text 30. Being cursed by the Brahmanas, the same two associates took birth again as Kumbhakarna and the 10-headed Ravana. These two Rakshasas were killed by Lord Ramachandra's extraordinary power. That means they were liberated. Text 37. Pierced by the arrows of Lord Ramachandra, both Kumbhakarna and Ravana lay on the ground and left their body, fully absorbed in thought of the Lord, just as they had in their previous births as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. You see how blessed they were. Text 38. They both took birth again in human society as Sisupala and Dantavakra, and continued in the same enmity toward the Lord. It is they who merged into the body of the Lord in your presence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Varanu Bandena. Acting like the Lord's enemy is also beneficial for the living entities. Kama, Vesad, Mayat, Snehat. Whether in lusty desire, anger, fear, or envy of the Lord, somehow one or other, as recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami, Tasmat Kinapi Upayena. One should become attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and ultimately active each ultimately achieve the goal of returning home back to Godhead. What then is to be said of one who is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover? Text 39. Not only Sisipala and Dantavakra, but also many, many other kings who acted as enemies of Krishna attained salvation at the time of death. Because they thought of the Lord, they received spiritual bodies and forms the same as his, just as worms captured by a black drone obtain the same type of body as the drone. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The mystery of yogic meditation is explained here. Real yogis always meditate on the form of Vishnu within their hearts. Consequently, at the time of death, they give up their bodies while thinking of the form of the Lord, and thus attain Vishnu Loka, Vaikuntha Loka,
Vaikunta.
Vaikuntha Loka. I'm sorry, Vaikuntha Loka, where they receive bodily features the same as those of the Lord. From the sixth canto, we have already learned that when the Vishnu Dutas came from Vaikuntha to deliver Ajamila, they looked exactly like Vishnu, with four hands and the same features as Vishnu. Therefore, we may conclude that if one practices thinking of Vishnu and is fully absorbed in thinking of him at the time of death, one returns home back to Godhead. Even enemies of Krishna who thought of Krishna in fear or Maya, such as King Kamsa, receive bodies in a spiritual identity similar to that of the Lord. So you see, whether you're a demon or you're a devotee, as long as you're thinking of the Lord, you become liberated and take the body of a devotee. Interesting. Text 40. By devotional service, pure devotees who incessantly think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead receive bodies similar to his. This is known as Swarupa Mukti. Although Sisupala, Dantavakra, and other kings thought of Krishna as an enemy, they also achieved the same result. Yeah, they got bodies as devotees. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, in connection with Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, it is explained that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is he is attracted to the service of the Lord. This constant thought of the Lord makes the devotee eligible to return home back to Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Tyakvadeham punarjanma naitimamiti. After giving up this body, a devotee does not again receive a material body, but goes back to the Godhead and receives a spiritual body, resembling those of the Lord's eternal associates, whose activities he followed. However, the devotee likes to serve the Lord. He may constantly think of the Lord's associates, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the Lord's father and mother, his servants, and the trees, land, animals, plants, and water in the Lord's abode. Because of constantly thinking of these features, one acquires a transcendental position. Kings like Sisupala, Dantavakra, Kamsa, Pondraka, Narakasura, and Salva were all similarly delivered. This is confirmed by Madhavacharya. Pondraka Narake Chaiva, Salva Kamse Charukmini, Avistas tu Harir Bhaktas, Tad Bhaktya Harim Apire. Pondraka, Narakasura, Salva, and Kamsa were all inimical toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because of all these kings constantly thought of him, they achieved the same liberation, Swarupa Mukti. The Jnana Yoga Bhakta, the devotee who follows the path of jnana, also attains the same destination. If even the enemies of the Lord achieve salvation by constantly thinking about the Lord, what is to be said of pure devotees who always engage in the Lord's service and who think of nothing but the Lord in every activity? Text 41. Everything you asked me about how Sisupala and others attained salvation, although they were inimical, has now been explained to you by me. Well, yeah, whether you think of Krishna always with love and devotion, or you think always of Krishna as an enemy of the Lord, you become purified because you're thinking of the Lord. Text 42. In this narration about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, various expansions or incarnations of Lord have been described, and the killing of the two demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, has also been described. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Avatars, or incarnations, are expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna, Govinda, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayoganam Cha Vede Sudurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who is the original person, non-dual, infallible, and without beginning. Although he expands into unlimited forms, he is still the original, and although he is the oldest person, he always appears as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, and all-knowing forms of the Lord cannot be understood by the academic wisdom of the Vedas, but they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. Brahma Samhita 5.33. Brahma Samhita, the Brahma Samhita describes the avatars. Indeed, all the avatars are described in the authentic scriptures. No one can become an avatar or incarnation, although this has been fashionable in the age of Kali. The avatars are described as authentic scripture in the authentic scriptures. The avatars are described in the authentic scriptures or shastras, and therefore, before one risks accepting a pretender as an avatar, one should refer to the shastras. The shastras say everywhere that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and that he has innumerable avatars or incarnations elsewhere. In the Brahma Samhita it is said, Ramadi Murti Sukala Niyamena Tistam, Rama, Nishinga, Varaha, and many others are consecutive expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After Krishna becomes Balarama, after Krishna comes Balarama, after Balarama is Sankar's son, then Aniruddha, Pradumna, Narayana, and then the Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Shirodakshay Vishnu. All of them are avatars. One must hear about the avatars. Narrations about such avatars are called avatara tata, the narrations of Krishna's expansion. Hearing and chanting these narrations is completely pious. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtan. One who hears and chants can become punya, purified of material contamination. Whenever there are references to the avatars, religious principles are established, and then the demons who are against Krishna are killed. The Krishna consciousness movement is spreading all over the world with two aims: to establish Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead and to kill all the pretenders who falsely present themselves as avatars. The preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement must carry this conviction very carefully within their hearts and kill the demons who, in many tactful ways, vilify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. If we take shelter of Nishingadeva and Prahlad Maharaja, it will be easier to kill the demons who are against Krishna. Prahlada, against Krishna, and to thus uh, reestablish Krishna's supremacy. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the original Lord. Prahlada Maharaj is our Guru, and Krishna is our worshipful God. As advised by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Guru Krishna Prasade Haya Bhakti Lata Bija. If we can be successful in getting the mercy of Prahlada Maharaj and also that of Nisringadeva, then our Krishna consciousness movement will be extremely successful. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
The demon Hiranyakashipu had so many ways to try to become God himself. But although Prahlada Maharaj was chastised and threatened in many ways, he rigidly refused to accept his powerful demoniac father as God. Following in the footsteps of Prahlada Maharaj, we should reject all rascals who pretend to be God. We must accept Krishna and his incarnations and no one else. Wow, there it is. Unequivocal. Just reject all the so called incarnations that are bogus. Text 43 and 44. This narration describes the characteristics of the great and exalted devotee Prahlada Maharaja, his staunch devotional service, his perfect knowledge, and his perfect detachment from material contamination. It also describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Prahlada Maharaj, in his prayers, has described the transcendental qualities of the Lord and has also described how the various abodes of the demigods and demons, regardless of how materially opulent, are destroyed by the mere direction of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam is filled with descriptions of the characteristics of various devotees with reference to the service of the Lord. This Vedic literature is called Bhagavatam because it deals with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees by studying Srimad Bhagavatam under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. One can perfectly understand the science of Krishna, the nature of the material and spiritual worlds, and the aim of life. Srimad Bhagavatam Amalan Purusham.
Puranam.
I'm sorry. Srimad Bhagavatam
Amala Puranam.
Amalan.
Amala Puranam.
Amalam.
Amalam.
Amalam Puranam.
Amalam.
Amalam Puranam.
Yeah. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Vedic literature, as we have discussed in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, simply by understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, one can understand the science of the activities of the devotees, the activities of the demons, the permanent abode, and the temporary abode. Through Srimad Bhagavatam, everything is perfectly known. And there's a little statement underneath the purport that says the word anu means after. Authorized persons do not create anything, rather, they follow the previous acharyas. Haribol, that's a very good thing to know. Text 45. The principles of religion by which one can actually understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are called Bhagavata Dharma. In this narration, therefore, which deals with these principles, actual transcendence is properly described. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Through the principles of religion, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahman, the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, and Paramatma, the localized aspect of the Lord. When one is well conversant with all these principles, he becomes a devotee and performs Bhagavata Dharma. Prahlada Maharaj, the spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession, advised that this Bhagavata Dharma be instructed to students from the very beginning of their education. Komara Acharet Ragno Dharma Bhagavatam Iha. To understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the real purpose of education. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. One must simply hear about and describe Lord Vishnu and his various incarnations. This narration concerning Prahlada Maharaj and Lord Nrsingadeva, therefore, has properly described spiritual transcendental subjects. Text 46. One who hears and chants this narration about the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is certainly liberated from material bondage without fail. Text 47. Prahlada Maharaja was the best among the exalted devotees. Anyone with great attention hears this narration concerning the activities of Prahlada Maharaja, the killing of Hiranyakashipu, and the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Shingadeva, surely reaches the spiritual world where there is no anxiety. Text 48. Narada Muni continued, my dear Maharaj Yudhisthira, all of you, the Pandavas, are extremely fortunate, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, lives in your palace just like a human being. Great saintly persons know this very well, and therefore they constantly visit this house. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. After hearing about the activities of Prahlada Maharaja, a pure devotee should be very anxious to follow in his footsteps. But such a devotee might be disappointed, thinking that not every devotee can come to the standard of Prahlada Maharaj. This is the nature of a pure devotee. He always thinks himself to be the lowest, to be incompetent and unqualified. Thus, after hearing the narration of Prahlada Maharaja's activities, Maharaja Yudhisthira, who was on the same standard of devotional service as Prahlada, might have been thinking of his own humble position. Narada Muni, however, could understand Maharaj Yudhisthira's mind, and therefore he immediately encouraged him by saying that the Pandavas were less fortunate. They were as good as Prahlad Maharaja. They were as good as Prahlad Maharaja because although Lord Nrsingadeva appeared for Prahlada, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original form as Krishna was always living with the Pandavas. Although the Pandavas, because of the influence of Krishna's Yogamaya, could not think of their fortunate position, every saintly person, including the great sage Narada, could understand it, and therefore they constantly visited Maharaj Yudhisthira. Any pure devotee who is constantly conscious of Krishna is naturally very fortunate. The word nuri loke, meaning within the material world, indicates that before the Pandavas there had been many, many devotees, such as the descendants of the Yadu dynasty and Vasistha, Marichi, Kashyapa, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, who were all extremely fortunate. The Pandavas, however, were better than all of them because Krishna himself lived lived with them constantly, better than all of them. So sorry. Let's go back. Any pure devotee who is constantly conscious of Krishna is naturally very fortunate. The word nariloke, meaning within the material world, indicates that before the Pandavas there had been many, many devotees, such as the descendants of the Yadu dynasty, and Vasistha, Marichi, Kashyapa, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, who were all extremely fortunate. The Pandavas, however, were better than all of them because Krishna himself lived with them constantly. Narada Muni therefore specifically mentioned that within this material world, Nri Loke, the Pandavas were the most fortunate. Haribol. Text 49. The impersonal Brahman is Krishna himself. because Krishna is the source of the impersonal Brahman. He is the origin of the transcendental bliss, sought by great saintly persons. Yet he, the Supreme Person, is your most dear friend and constant well-wisher, and is intimately related to you as the son of your material uncle,
Maternal.
maternal uncle. Indeed, he is always like your body and soul. He is worshipable, yet he acts as your servant and sometimes as your spiritual master. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There is always a difference of opinion about the absolute truth. One class of transcendentalists concludes that the absolute truth is impersonal, and another class concludes that the absolute truth is a person. In Bhagavad Gita, the absolute truth is accepted as the supreme person. Indeed, that supreme person himself, Lord Krishna, instructs in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham mata parataram nanya. The impersonal Brahman is my partial manifestation, and there is no truth superior to me. That same Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, acted as the Supreme Friend and relative of the Pandavas, and sometimes even acted as their servant by carrying a letter from the Pandavas to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Because Krishna was the well-wisher of the Pandavas, he also acted as Guru by becoming the spiritual master of Arjuna. Arjuna accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. Jisyaste ham sadimam tvam prapanam. And Krishna sometimes chastised him. For example, the Lord said, Asocyan avasocha swam pragna vadamscha vasase. While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. The Lord also said, Kutas tva tasmalam idam vishame. Let's start over again. Arjuna accepted Krishna as a spiritual master. Sisyaste ham sadimam tvam prapanam. And Krishna sometimes chastised him. For example, the Lord said, Asocyan avasochas tvam pragnam vadam cha vasase. While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. The Lord also said, Kutas tvam kasmalam idam vishame samupastitam. My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? Such was the intimate relationship between the Pandavas and Krishna. In the same way, a pure devotee of the Lord is always with Krishna through thick and thin. His way of life is Krishna. His way of life is Krishna. This is the statement of the authority, Sri Narada Muni. Text 50. Exalted. Is our time over?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are time.
Okay. All right. We'll stop. We'll stop right there. Pick up
From 50.
tomorrow on text 50.
50. Okay.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Ki jai.
Are there any questions or comments?
What is the takeaway, Maharaj?
The what?
Takeaway?
Okay. The takeaway for today. It is the impersonal Brahman is Krishna himself, because Krishna is the source of the impersonal Brahman. He is the origin of the transcendental bliss sought by great saintly persons. Yet he, the Supreme Person, is your most dear friend and constant well wisher, and is intimately related to you as the son of your material uncle. Indeed, he is always like your body and soul. He is worshipable, yet he acts as your servant and sometimes as your spiritual master. That's a wonderful takeaway. And the purport says there's always a difference of opinion about the absolute truth. One class of transcendentalists concludes that the absolute truth is an impersonal, and another class concludes that the absolute truth is a person. In Bhagavad Gita, the absolute truth is accepted as the supreme person. Indeed, that supreme person himself, Lord Krishna, instructs in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi patistaham matak parantaram manyat. The impersonal Brahman is my partial manifestation, and there is no truth superior to me. That same Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, acted as the supreme friend and relative of the Pandavas, and sometimes he even acted as their servant by carrying a letter from the Pandavas to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Because Krishna was the well-wisher of the Pandavas, he also acted as a guru by becoming the spiritual master of Arjuna. Arjuna accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. Sishyaste ham sadivam tvam bhavanam. And Krishna sometimes chastised him. For example, the Lord said, Asochan anvasochas tvam pragnavadam cha bhasase. While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. The Lord also says, Kutas tvam kasmalam idam vishame vasase. While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. The Lord also said, Kutas tvam kasmalam idam vishame samapastidam. My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? Such as the intimate relationship between the Pandavas and Krishna. In the same way, a pure devotee of the Lord is always with Krishna through thick and thin. His way of life is Krishna. This is the statement of the authority of Sri Narada Muni. So that is a good explanation of the culture of devotees of Krishna. They're always with Krishna, and they're always following the instructions of the authority of great devotees like Narada Muni. Okay, well, we'll stop right there. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
Yes, Father. Maharaj, one question.
Yes.
In the purport of text 40.
Okay. Second. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
In the beginning of the purport, it says, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in connection with Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, it is explained that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. This constant thought of the Lord makes the devotee eligible to return home back to God.
and your question.
Question, Maharaj, is this statement for like acharyas or for the pure devotees, or is this statement for neophytes as well?
Yeah, it's a statement for everyone. This constant thought of the Lord makes the devotee eligible to return home back to Godhead. So that's referring to everybody. I mean, every devotee.
So it says, Maharaj, it always inwardly think of particular mellow. But for a neophyte, how, like, is it, it might be changing, right? That mellow, like in the beginning, there will be something else. After a few years of practice, it might change. So is that the right understanding for a neophyte, that even though that mellow is changing, that keep following that whatever is it?
Okay, so let's read that here. It says, it is explained that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. So that is, in other words, he's saying that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mode in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. So, in other words, the devotee has a special way of thinking of the Lord, but it does not stop him from acting in, says here, acting inwardly, think of a particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. So the devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. That's the statement you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, it's pretty straightforward. He should execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord.
Does that mean that when we are doing the service of the Lord, we are always thinking about Him internally, and externally we are just doing the regular tasks?
Well, it says here, the devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think. So the key word is inwardly.
Yeah.
Think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. So that's a personal, let's say, quality of the devotee. Although he does his routine devotional service in a regular way, but he always
He's
inwardly
thinking of
thinks
that.
of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. Okay, so what's an example of that? That means that we have different services that we have to do in the temple. But that doesn't stop us from having a particular
relationship.
Yeah, particular, let's say, mellow feeling for the Lord. We might not express it all the time, but we experience it and we hold on to it. But should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. Yeah. So what is that particular mellow? Well, it might be chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It might be having a special, let's say, attraction to to chanting the glories of the Lord. So that is that is the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. That could be worshiping the deity. That could be chanting choice verses glorifying the deity. These are all, let's say, activities that are not
External.
the internal, expressions of their love for the Lord. They also perform the external services. That's why it says here, the devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. And it says, this constant thought of the Lord makes the devotee eligible to return home back to God. So he's always when he's always thinking of the Lord, at the same time doing his routine devotional service, that makes him
Go back to God.
he qualified to go back to the spiritual world. He doesn't only think about doing his routine service, but he also has this, let's say, special, what you would call it,
Mellow.
the special inward thoughts
Feeling.
and feelings of the Lord. Yeah. He might not share that with others, but he has that inward thinking of a particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. Bible.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Oh, the Sheila. We'll pick up. We'll read this from.
15.
Oh, we're on 40.
No, Maharaj.
That was just a question.
Oh.
Yeah.
We read till 49 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you. Get up 50. Thank you very much.